if you don't mind elaborating your service details when you enlisted, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure. I enlisted mid 80s. I don't recall exactly now. Uh, there was military in my family, and I had wanted to join the Air Force. My favorite uncle was in the Air Force. Um, but I ended up, as a result of a relationship that I was in, uh, they joined the military, and I just happened to be walking by the recruiters one day, and I filled out the application and I said, all right, whoever gets to my door first, that's who I'm going with. I was kind of very lighthearted about it. And it was the U.S. Army. And I joined. I left almost just a couple weeks later, and I surprised my family. I did 71 Lima administrative work, and I usually worked at a command level, doing different things. I got out of the military after my first assignment, and I went back. I got called back as an IRR for Desert Storm, and that's what brought me to Washington. I worked for PERSCOM, Personnel Command, and I did mortuary affairs and some congressional inquiries and Military Postal Service Agency doing congressional inquiries. Yeah.
Okay, so when you got out, that's when you went to Washington D.C., or you were in the military through all that in Washington D.C. as well?
I enlisted from Ohio, and when I got out, I was in Hawaii for my first assignment.
Oh, first assignment. Okay.
And I was finished, but I got activated for Desert Storm.
Mm-hmm. And so by the time you were done with your work in Washington D.C. and you came out here, this is all just like a year or two ago, right? Or
I stayed in Washington. When they asked me, where do you want us to ship your belongings, I really had no idea. And I lived in Washington, D.C. for a couple years. And then I just lived in the D.C. metro area. I just kept moving to different places. Honestly, I didn't know where home was. I didn't know where to go.
Mm-hmm. And so obviously this was in the mid 80s, you're going through all this. So how would you describe yourself before Arbor came into your life? I understand. So before I ask that, talk about, you mentioned the military was great, but there were some difficulties throughout all that.
Yes.
If you don't mind elaborating on those difficulties, please?
I excelled in the military. I loved it. I loved firing all the weapons. I loved all of the air defense artillery training. I was completely honored to serve in Desert Storm with mortuary affairs. I don't know why. My mother had exposed us to the Vietnam vets. She took us down and we marched, and I just had this deep-rooted sense of service in the military. And I excelled. But right from the get-go in basic training, I learned very quickly that I was a female. And I went through hell being a female. And the stronger I was, because I took all that anger and I was just, bring it, the stronger that I was in fighting sexual assault, sexual harassment, bodies, people slapping your butt, people who outranking you, trying to coerce you into doing things that you don't want to do it. And when you say no, you pay an extra price for that. Harassment, but waking you up in the middle of the night, digging foxholes, in the middle of the night with your buddy, just on and on and on. And then I was sexually assaulted when I got out of the military in Hawaii by a doctor, and I was pregnant. And that wound is something I am just really coming to terms with from winning my case a year ago and going back and fighting. It's a shameful thing because, first of all, nobody wants to talk about it. You're carrying it all and you blame yourself the whole time. You don't want to dishonor the military. Everything you see is heroes, protectors, defenders. And there are a lot of very good men and women serving. And even they had no power to protect you or stand up or but it's an institutional trauma. It goes way beyond just a personal assault, which is traumatic in and of itself. But when we don't talk about it and we blame the person, oh, it's your hormones, oh, she has a mental health problem. And I've been in therapy, mind you, for 30 years, and I believe in it 100%. And for many of those years, I did blame myself. Was it my childhood? I mean, nobody beat me or sexually assaulted me there. I was a cheerleader in high school and in college. I was president of the pep club. I was all, I just have this spirit about me, but it broke my heart. It cracked me open like an egg. The insanity of it all and not talking about it. This term in 2013, I'd been in therapy for 20 years and I thought, I'm going to graduate. And I was teaching yoga and I had a tiny little yoga studio. I was really stepping out there into the world. And then I heard about some news report about all these women that had been sexually assaulted. They were in Kuwait. And I heard one case about a doctor, and I had tucked this away because you don't discredit the military. I was afraid of military justice, still very much afraid of discrediting the military. And besides that, family, people don't want you to discredit the military, but it messed me up bad. And I went to the Wounded Warrior. And again, I was still blaming myself. Oh, I'm having bad relationships. I keep choosing bad guys. I live in fear constantly, negativity, with this external positive, but really holding it all in. And Wounded Warrior got me into the VA. And when I got into the VA, they said, have you experienced MST? I had no idea what they were talking about. And it opened Pandora's box. And I was like, yeah. And then I began writing and I began getting surveys from people, and it just opened it all up. And that's when I filed a claim, and I won. I fought for 5 years. I think it was almost harder than what I actually went through, because they came back and said, we have no records for you, no medical records for you. All we have is how well you did in all of your awards. And I had to fight. I had to dig deep. I had to go back and prove my case. And I had to get people, men that I had tried to have relationships with, to write letters on my behalf about what happened psychologically for me, being intimate. And, things are changing now. We're really starting to look at these things, and we're looking at PTSD as neurological. And I don't believe in drugs. I don't believe in medicine. You can't take medicine and wipe this stuff away. I tried some years ago. Oh, you need this, you need Depakote, you need this, you need that. And I'm like, no, this can't be the answer, because it didn't help and I was still hurting. And I think that winning my case, it's a whole new layer. It actually opened up the possibility that I could grieve all of these years as a young woman who wanted to serve, and I actually wanted to be a senator one day. I had aspirations for all kinds of things, but the weight of that, the anxiety, the depression, the guilt, the shame, blaming yourself, and really not being able to talk about it, it almost broke me more than once.
So obviously you're describing yourself. Oh, and just to make sure, what is MST? Just to make sure.
Military sexual trauma.
Oh, okay.
It's a relatively new term. To my understanding, it's only been around for like 7 to 10 years that we've started talking about it. So getting to Canine Companions, being at the VA, wonderful, wonderful psychologist, really gave me some good cognitive skills and made it safe for me to begin to talk about what really happened. And it's not easy to do that, but she had suggested the possibility of, have you ever thought of getting a service dog? I'm like, I wasn't missing a limb, and I don't like this heroes. I don't like that. You serve. I loved the military, not to be a hero or any of that. And I didn't feel worthy. I did not feel I deserved. And then the second part was, oh my God, people are going to go, what's wrong with her? What's wrong with you, a service dog? I was like, no, not me.
you're describing yourself pre-Arbor, essentially how it almost broke you and such things. So, so talk about what happened next year. You were hard-headed and not getting this service dog, but what opened you up to, okay, let's get this service dog? What happened there?
Well, I saw a woman who at the VA in Martinsburg, where I was going at the time, and she had the dog, and she had a service dog, and I just decided to ask her about it because I trusted and respect my therapist, and she'd suggested it softly from time to time, over the couple years of therapy since I'd gotten back into the VA. And when I saw this lady, she told me, she said, listen, she said, having this dog has really helped me, and you can find 3 organizations on the veterans website that the VA will work with. Because the other thing too is I didn't have a lot of money, I still don't, to take care of a dog. And secondly, just going out and getting a dog, which is crazy, and I can't, it's too much. It's just too much stress for me. I decided to send in an application. And it takes like 2 years. And the whole time I was processing going, nope. And I checked, what if I don't want the dog? What if I can't take care of the dog? What if, because the dog requires me to be close and to trust. And I didn't want to have to care for anybody else. I was exhausted. I would go out and teach my yoga, which I do very well, but I hid inside. I stayed inside my house. I didn't go out. Just to go to the grocery store is a big deal. I can't stand the traffic. I couldn't stand all the people, all the noise, the lights, the sounds. It's just neurologically just too much. I didn't really fully understand it while I was going through it, but I heard about this, that the VA was doing something with PTSD and service dogs. And I still was looking at it going, well, it's not for me, but I knew that it took a long time to get approved. So I was like, okay, whatever. And I filled out the paperwork. I answered the questions. I did the interviews. They told us we had to drive to New York, which was massively, and just leaving the house too far. Anything beyond 10 miles. And if I didn't know where I was going, stress, chest pains, the whole 9 yards. But in order to get the dog, you had to do that. And I was like, oh my gosh. I went, I don't remember, it was like 6 months before to be interviewed because it's an extensive process. And I was like, fine, they're going to know, am I mentally stable enough to have a dog or not? Come here, Papa. I was really judging. I was scared, honestly. And I met Arbor, and I had no feelings. I was like, a good dog in the summer. And they were very kind, very receptive. They seemed to understand post-traumatic stress disorder on the interview. And after that June of 2019, I went home for the summer and I started talking to myself and my granddaughter, oh, I'm going to have a service dog. And I bought a child's book on a service dog because I almost felt like a child too, learning what is I really didn't get what is a service dog and how can it really help me. But I was trying something, like it's worth a shot. And I didn't want to go to PTSD programs where everybody's traumatized and I'm being re-traumatized. MST groups, I'm being re-traumatized. But I thought, well, let me just try. And it was a social worker, there had therapy people involved. They really had their game together. And I was like, okay, I can trust this organization. And so finally I went back in December. It was a 2-week training. I had so much anxiety. I was so emotional. It was just me and another female. And even the lady who just runs the facility, she was there to meet me. She was very concerned about safety. Would you like this door to be unlocked or locked? This is your room. I've secured the perimeter. I'll be here all night. They seemed to know that safety was so important. And it helped me. it broke me open. I have to say that getting this service dog, the training was so powerful. It was structured, which is important for PTSD. They were non-emotional, but very supportive. You've got this. That's what they said all 10 days. You've got this. You've got this. Because you mess up, you're vulnerable. I was emotional. I'm crying. Are we allowed to cry? Are we not allowed to cry? There was a lot of cognitive training. You know, by the time the training was over, I was exhausted, but my heart was open. And I felt like, and what I didn't know is that while I got Arbor, I had won my case. I didn't know until I got back. But that fight, getting a dog, when I used to see the veterans that had been through things and bless their hearts missing a limb, and what my mother taught us about the vets and the work that she did with the vets, I was so happy for them to have a dog, but I never saw myself as my wound being worthy. And having Arbor was like a badge of honor for me. It was like coming home, that I could just embrace that I had served too. And I was strat in the military. I gave 150%. It was game on for me. I am geared for that. But it was just the constant reminder of being a female, or being slammed up against an elevator because someone's jealous because you're doing good work and you're getting an award, a guy. Or it's unbelievable how terrible it can be for women to be in the military. But getting Arbor and feeling like an organization, to include the VA, felt that I was worthy, that they heard me. And for me, that's the biggest part of healing, to be witnessed and to be heard and to be honored for our service and our story. And Arbor, my gosh, he's trained in nightmare training. When my neurologist, after I got Arbor, I went home and I had people, yoga people, my students loved me. They came to my home, and I don't let people do that. But I had Arbor. So Arbor was a bridge, and was very nervous and trying to protect, but people were warm. They brought gifts. And then this invitation to come out here to teach for a veterans organization in Gallatin Gateway, teaching yoga, they'd been asking me since September. And I said, no, I don't think I can do it. Blind with anxiety. Arbor is trained for airports. He's trained to be on the airplane. He's trained for everything. I can feel my anxiety. They actually, right when I knew that Arbor was mine, they called. And I said, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll come out and do it. And I went home and I packed and I planned. I came out here and it was mountains, wind, snow, but we made the trip. And all the people in the airport, United Airlines, fabulous. Everybody was like, wow, your dog is amazing. And it made me feel connected. I wasn't just walking around judging people. I began to feel a connection. People smiled at me. I wasn't just going, that person's, the negative stuff that really gets boxed up in your head with PTSD. Maybe not just with PTSD, but I began to go, wow, people are really nice. And then when I went back to Washington, 10 days later, I started looking for places to rent. I found this place to rent. I chose this place because I have access to mental health care in Fort Harrison, and 25 days later, I moved. I had Arbor. I had a mission. Now I have a mission. He needs to go potty. He needs to be clean. They teach us to do their nails, clean their ears. I have a mission. I have a partnership. I have a connection. And every time I go out in Helena, every time somebody comes up to me and they go, oh my gosh, your dog is amazing. And we get a connection. That's what my neurologist want. My neurologist said to me, this is what's going to help you heal. You can't just go into Starbucks, have a cup of coffee and call it socializing. You need to go in and have a conversation with people. How do you do that? Having this dog, even with COVID, I've had my mask on and people are like, oh my gosh, your dog, can I pet your dog? People have cried, opened up and just cried because of COVID, because of what's going on in the world. They're scared. People have just opened up because of me and having this dog. And neurologically, because I got kind of depressed with COVID, I'm like, oh my gosh, I came out here, I was going to join the theater, I was going to try out for a play, I was going to join a hiking club. Everything was shut down. But just going to the grocery store, the gas station, dropping my cardboard off at the recycling place, walking down and was at the college place, people stop us. And I come home going, the world's not such a bad place. I don't have to hibernate so much. I can take a risk. I can get out. And when people ask me, are you training him? Because the thing about PTSD is it's an invisible wound. You don't see it, but my son knows it because I raised him. It was hard for him, very hard for him. I mean, I've survived homelessness, just all sorts of things that I have been through because I couldn't handle just so much stress. But I'm handling things better in a strange way, which I can't really describe yet because of Arbor. I get to go out, I get to connect more, I get to take more chances and connect with the world that I've been judging and fearful of for so long in my life. I've grown tremendously. I teach yoga now online. You know, I'm not getting rich or anything, but all the people when I moved away, they please teach yoga on Zoom. I learned all about Zoom. I learned about lighting. It just gave me, and everybody loved Arbor. He comes to my yoga classes. And they're like, oh, Team Amber and Team Arbor. It's like giving me permission to be that young girl that I once was before all of the bad things happened. To kind of reclaim that young, and I feel that young veteran spirit, and I learned a great deal from the military. Get it done. Get up, get moving, get it done, even when you don't want to. And now having Arbor who has to get out. And he stares at me, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go walk up these trails. I'm going to get out and walk up that trail, and I find myself out for an hour. Maybe 2 hours, exploring things, looking around. It is incredibly healthy for me because I could stay in this house for 3-5 days and never leave and never have a problem with it. I can't do that with Arbor. It's medicine. He has to get out, and I love him. Look how he is.
And this is all just under a year, correct? When was the official
December.
debut?
December 13th, I will have had Arbor for a year.
Wow. So, and less than a year, you made so much progress in just, like I said, under a year. That's incredible story there. You know, obviously, talk about what you hope for next. I mean, this is barely just a year of progress. You seem to be able to do a lot more things because of Arbor. You know, this is just year one. What do you expect in a couple years from now? What are you hoping Arbor will help you with in the next few years?
Be out in front with this. This is a symbol. This is a symbol that, for me, that I am really tired of people talking about mental health and they have a mental health problem and they have mental illness and they whatever. We need to change that mindset about being human. That's a powerful thing for me. Having Arbor, because people ask me, well, why do you have the dog? And I say, I have post-traumatic stress disorder. The VA recognizes that, and they recognize the power of animals to help heal that, especially trained animals, because I can't train it. That's an important message to me. It's important, and in my future, I really want to be out there more talking about trauma and release some of the stigma with that. Having Arbor creates a bridge. And I'm telling you, people literally at the playground, this mother, 2 children, she said, I wonder, my son has something, and I wonder, can you tell me, how does it help you? she just started crying in the park. I want to be out in front more with this. We must stop shaming people and boxing them in. They have a mental health disease and keeping them boxed in. We must bring this out more and start embracing this science of psychology, not just psychiatry and meds, but the psychology of animals and healing and alternative things that can help people deal and cope with what their nervous system is doing and help, I don't know, just bring it out more and stop stigmatizing this. I'm really tired of that. I'm not going to go to my grave ashamed anymore. Having Arbor has really helped me bring this out and not be ashamed that I have limitations. And once I can work with my limitations, look, I am teaching yoga online. I've wanted to do it forever. I have bought equipment. I've never done it until I got Arbor. I'm doing so much more because I have this dog. And that's how I see myself, just because I do get afraid still. But I see myself taking chances and just getting out there, no matter what. And at night, when I come home and I'm by myself, I have Arbor. He sleeps with me. Look at him. He checks in with me. It's just, he's so well trained. He protects me. Like, he'll sense at the VA, he'll stand in front of me, he'll stand behind me. He just senses things. I don't even know how to describe it. But I don't want to live the rest of my life in shame anymore. I'm tired of that. And I want to be the proud veteran that I am, who's, yes, I have PTSD, and yes, I went through military sexual trauma. And it is time that we bring this out more and more in the forefront to help people that are afraid of talking about this. I am not going to be afraid. And if I can use my voice to speak for them, and they sit in their living room watching something and they heal just a little bit, maybe they drop a tear and they cry. That's how I want to live my life, having Arbor by my side. That's how I see myself moving forward. I have intentions to podcast. I have intentions to podcast and talk, real talk. Just talk about things, get people to say, yeah, this happened to me. You know, and maybe we can all just connect on our common, what we have in common in our hearts, you know, and not live in shame. I'm so tired of that. I really am.
That is an incredible goal. That's amazing what Arbor can do for you. You know, if you're okay with sharing, if you didn't have Arbor right now, what do you think you would be doing?
I'd be depressed. Seriously depressed. I was seriously depressed before I got Arbor. Even before winning my case, I mean, years ago, I've had suicide attempt. More than once, twice. Once while I was in the military, and once after I got out. I just didn't think I could do it. I didn't think, I can't articulate it clearly, but I have wanted to give up so many times. But now, I have this purpose. I have this, when people are saying Arbor's beautiful, I am beautiful. My heart is beautiful. I'm a good person. It's taken me a long time to come back to, I'm a good person. If I didn't, I had a cat before and she died. I had her 15 years, 2 years before I got Arbor. But she kept me indoors. Arbor gets me out. I can't get too depressed anymore. Do you understand? Now I get anxious. Walk in the streets. Am I safe? Are there people there? Is there a dog going to hurt Arbor? You know, trust me, I'm on, especially with what's going on in the world right now. But I get out. And I can't get too depressed anymore. I don't know how to describe that. But before Arbor, I was seriously, seriously hurting. And I'm polished. Everybody, oh, she's great. She looks fine. You look great. You look fabulous. And that's what I put on that front, because I was just visiting human beings. I was just watching people live their lives, families. I lived where I was in the DC metro area, Ashburn and South Riding. I was just living there because everybody was family, and I watched families. I was watching living outside, out my window. Now I'm out in it. I'm out in the neighborhood. Kids come running up to me and parents, and I'm a part of my community now. I've connected with neighbors here. Everybody loves Arbor. Arbor has become like a bridge. And I know that people suffer with PTSD. They stay inside. They want to stay away. And you harbor these dark thoughts like the world's terrible, nobody cares, whatever. And I've run into some veterans like that. I'm not going to be that way. This dog has helped brighten me back up to the possibility that I don't believe in hope. I don't hope for things to happen. I believe in making things happen. And I'll say this to you, it's going to hurt either way. It's going to hurt to grow and expose myself and come out and keep going to therapy and keep doing the work. And I have setbacks. I do, especially with all the the violence in our country, the division, thinking about our National Guard, standing up against people, the divisiveness, it has hurt me deeply. But having Arbor and his positivity and consistency and the training and the follow-up from Canine Companion, they don't just give you a dog and walk away. They follow up with you. How are you doing? Is there any problem with Arbor? You learn to be a handler. You know that you're part of a larger organization. They join your Facebook page. They watch your progress. They encourage you to post. They encourage you to connect. It's powerful, and it has inspired me to do things that I wanted to do when I was a young woman, and I shut it down because I didn't trust the world anymore. He is helping me trust. I got to add something. Imagine trying to date with a service dog. Can you imagine?
I have no idea how
Think
that
about that. I have to say, I'll have coffee with you and I have a service dog. What? I have made myself do this a couple of times since I've had Arbor, because ultimately one day I would like to be in a relationship. I don't want to be wounded and alone all of my life. I very well may be, but connection when you're this type of wound is incredibly complicated. But I still have some aspiration, or it seems logical to have a partner to share, hey, here's Thanksgiving, and hey, the world's crazy, can you give me a hug, kind of a thing. But I've actually... Get up, trooper, get up, soldier, get out there and take your dog. And I forced myself to not be ashamed, especially when they ask the questions, well, what's wrong with you? Well, what happened? Why do you have a service dog? It has truly helped me feel less shameful about who I am and to be stronger, and just accept myself.
Thank you for sharing that. Many veterans are watching you share your story right now. Many obviously don't have services like a service dog right here. What message would you give to all those suffering from things like PTSD and not sure whether to get a service dog? Now, what message do you have to all these veterans?
Stay in therapy. Without a doubt, because that's important to be able to navigate the connection with a service dog, because it's a lot of responsibility. Stay in therapy and take the chance. Go through the interviews, answer all of the questions, go through the process and see if you're ready. Because honestly, if you get rejected from having a service dog and you really want one, just like you did in the military, you got to stick with it. You got to work for that and understand what they're looking from you. Do you know what I mean? Stay in therapy. Can we revisit you in 6 months or whatever that may be? Because honestly, 6 or 7 years ago, I wasn't ready mentally and emotionally to have a service dog. But because of the VA's participation in this, and because of the organizations that they're working with, they've put a lot of work into understanding PTSD, go through the process, go through the interviewing process. Because there's a lot of interviews and it takes time to get a service dog, but it is worth it. It is getting on the other side of it and facing all the fears and all the anger and all the judgment, like, why do I have to do this? You know, do I just deserve a dog, or whatever those stories are that go in your head? But getting on the other side of this, it was worth it. It was worth every single thing I had to go through emotionally, all the questions, all the interviews, and then the training. It was worth it. Go for it. There are programs out there that can help. And if medicine's not working, try a service dog.
Thank you for sharing that. You've answered all my questions here. Is there anything else you would like to add on top of all this that you just told me right now? Is there anything else that you like to get off your chest?
Stay connected. Stay connected to, there's people out there that really care. Take the risk. Stay connected. I am only what I am. I am only a reflection of all of the people who've stood up for me in my life. All of them. I am a reflection of that. But you got to be vulnerable. You got to take the armor off. And you got to let people help. And there is help out there. It's going to hurt either way. It hurts either way.